Good evening and welcome to CBS True Crime Podcast, and delighted to welcome the criminal underworld, which is a guy called John, I'm sure most of you will know, and Lee from Bad Blood Podcast. Good to see you, Lee. The invite to a few other people. I was asked to do this podcast by a couple of people, and for whatever reason, work gets in the way and stuff like that. They may come on, they may not. They've got the link. I'll only be doing about 50 minutes, but I think it's about time for me personally to clear a few things up. And this time last week, I was invited onto a podcast. No names mentioned for obvious reasons, but I've got to be honest, I felt really uncomfortable on that podcast, and I don't think anybody watching it would be able to say I didn't feel otherwise. The reason being that there was a lot of things of a sexual nature being discussed, which I just really felt uncomfortable with. And for me, I am not that kind of person. I am not somebody who talks openly about sex or something like that. It's personal to me. And when it starts to become even more bizarre about exhibitionism or stuff that takes place in a public place which shouldn't take place in a public place, then I got to be honest, I'm absolutely disgusted. And I couldn't wait to stick end broadcast and get out of there. I've got to be perfectly honest. And it horrified me. And I then was opened up to a brand new world, if you like. I was asked to take a look at some fairly compelling evidence. And that evidence that I was shown, and not literally by one person, but by 4 different people, 2 of whom aren't actually connected to anybody else, showed me stuff which really set alarm bells ringing. Stuff which included coercive behavior, which included rape, which included assault, which included asking somebody to commit an offence, namely arson, more rape. And if that isn't bad enough and doesn't get your stomach turning, then also an accusation of inciting a minor. Now, for me personally, I abhor anything of a sexual nature where it's done without anyone's consent, or I abhor anything to do with children. And I guess I speak for most fathers when I say that if anything happened to my kids, I don't know what I would do. I feel most guys would say I couldn't be responsible for my actions, and I think I would probably have to say exactly the same, because a parent's love for his child, or a mother's love for a child, is unconditional. And the feeling that you get if your son or your daughter trips over and cuts their knee or bangs their head, if you're a parent, you will understand what I'm saying there. And to hear that, or even suggest that somebody would try to do something with a minor, makes me physically sick. And this is important, really, for me to get this message out, because should any of these accusations be true, and let's face it, what we've heard and what we've seen on YouTube in particular over the last few weeks, a lot of these cases are no further action. But I think what we have to remind everybody is that no further action doesn't necessarily mean that something didn't happen. Yeah. And that is a big, big issue for me. I guess it is for Lee. I know it is for John, because I've watched John's videos. And me personally, I couldn't live with myself if I continued to help and support and back up somebody who had those kind of things hanging over them. And ultimately for me, there is an easy way out of this, because if I was accused of something like that, if I was given the amount of questions that were placed in front of me by various podcasters, by various people on social media, then I would certainly feel that now was the time to come out and essentially address the issues by doing it the way that we all know we can do it. And that is by getting the correct checks done and presenting the evidence to one and all. And of course, being a podcaster myself and being somebody who runs a successful podcast, then, you're in the public eye, and you have a right, of course, to privacy. But when it's something which is harming your particular brand, and let's face it, a podcast is a brand, then you need to clear your name, because I'm afraid that when people throw enough of the brown stuff, it does stick. And this is only going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. And I'm afraid nobody in that position, and that this particular person we all know I'm talking about is in, you can't hide behind your mum's settee. You've got to come out, you've got to address it, and you've got to say, this is where I'm at. This is me. This is the clearance. This is the clearance that you need to see, and then move on. And all of this would stop. Why not do that? And that is the big thing for me. But I've got these guys on as guests. I wanted everybody to know where I stand right from the start, because I haven't had any trolling. I've got to be honest. I haven't had anybody question it, but I know what the internet is like, and I know that after speaking to various people this week, that there was question marks. We all know I've got one big critic, but at the end of the day, I've got to be honest. I do, and I've told John this and Lee this. I do find these videos quite funny. Not a lot of truth in the stuff about me, I've got to say, although I have written some books, and I was a tiger the night that he popped in. But other than that, the rest of this stuff he says is pie in the sky. But getting back to the main source of this podcast, it is, it's my time to say, that's it. I know the truth. I can't be associated. I'm moving on. And as long as everybody understands that, out there knows that, then I'm happy. So time to welcome the guests. John from the criminal underworld. We've seen a lot of you, mate, and I've got to say you're a more serene, calm character when you're on this platform as opposed to seeing you on yours. Great to have you on, mate. We've already had you on before because, we had you on when I was going through a little bit of stuff in the summer with our friend in the red car with the eye patch, and you. You came on and we had a great chat, and this is bizarre, mate, isn't it? The whole thing is bizarre.
I mean, for me, it is. I entered into something this time last year, actually, with the intent to help someone develop a podcast and become part of it. And not gonna lie, part of it was for selfish reasons, for being able to promote my own businesses on the back of it. So, when you've got your sponsors on here, Steve, I wanted to do that with that podcast as well and be able to promote my brands on there as we built it. At that point, obviously, I started to hear a lot of rumours, allegations, and for 6 months, I ignored them. I did ignore them because there wasn't anything tangible out there, in fairness, that actually was concrete enough for me to look at it and think, right, okay, this is serious. It was only at the end of May this year that my son received a pornographic image of said podcaster. And I had to sort of say, well, I can't really work with you while this is going on because my ex-partner's not happy about it either. So this is where the whole problem for me started, was upon saying, look, I actually didn't even want said podcaster to go public with his DBS check. I just wanted safeguarding where the kids were concerned. So I could turn around and say to the ex, look, all sorted, here's the disclosure, put your mind at rest, happy days. Nah, I got offered to fight him instead. And it's always constant deflection of, I'll fight you, I'll do this, I'll do that, but I won't show you any proof. Why should I? Who have I got to answer to? Well, I'm sorry. You actually do have to answer to the public because you're in the public domain. You're in the public eye. And people like you who are trying to be an ambassador for the likes of mental health should be standing up and saying, I've been through this. And actually, there's no foundation or basis for these allegations. And here's why. And you've probably seen my video the other day. I was a sarcastic sod. I didn't hold my hands up with it. But I went and got my DBS done to prove, one, it can be done. And two, there's nothing there. and it's not difficult to show it either. You know, my DBS comes back clean, no convictions, no cautions, no reprimands. Said podcaster was only asked to give me a copy. I didn't need it to go public, you know, and I was still willing to be civil with him up until a few weeks ago, even though I have had a disclosure by the police given to me since, and I know the facts, and I can back up those facts. Hence the reason when you did a podcast with him on your own platform, Steve, I sent that question in. Has he made any attempt to contact, you know, the management of sexual offenders team and the detective sergeant who I introduced them to? Because all these allegations, they're not going away.
It's, you know, for me, it's fairly, it's fairly damning, the stuff that I've seen. But, you know, as I say, it's very easy to you know, essentially go and get things sorted out. And I mean, Lee, you run a very successful podcast. The link's below, Bad Blood Podcast. Get yourselves over there. John's got Criminal Underworld on Facebook, already up to 5,500 followers, I think, on there. But yeah, Bad Blood Podcast's been going for a long time, and it's doing really well. But you, Lee, I know you've sat there and watched this all develop. You know, what is your feelings on this as an observer, somebody who's not really been dragged into it to a degree, but what's your feeling?
I've heard the allegations years ago, and obviously I've done my podcast for boxing. Like the criminology has always been a hobby. So I always like to keep interested in what's going on. So I had heard whispers anyway, and I had seen videos exchanged back in the day, and all I'd done, all that's evolved from here, from me, on my behalf, is being friends with Danny, like me having Danny on the podcast. So I actually got a threat off the said person in question, one of his team members. So yeah, that's how serious it was. And then when you do and you look at the evidence that's being produced, it's etchy, just etchy. Do a lie detector.
Lie detectors are interesting. I mean, obviously, you know, we know our friend in the shed's done a couple of lie detectors. My friend, Stephen Sears, has done a lie detector test as well. I would say in this occasion, I think a lie detector is an easy way out. I think you need the proper paperwork. That's what you need. And it's as simple as that. And I think if you produce the paperwork and clear your name, then everybody would just move on. I mean, John, I'll come back to you. I mean, because I think I watched a lot of the videos, and you've got to give a good shout out to Karma Corner, to True Media, in particular, who are constantly putting adverts. I mean, Karma Corner has me in stitches, and I mean, it could be about anything, and I think I would laugh at that guy. So well done to him. I've stuck the links down below to him. I genuinely feel that the paperwork side of things is getting a little bit mixed up, and I've heard Ronan from Let's Talk TV. Now we know that our subject matter is supposedly going to go on there tonight at 9 o'clock and do a big chat with him. I hope it goes ahead. It'll be interesting to see. But ultimately, I just want to clear up exactly what kind of paperwork needs to be shown, because we hear about Claire's Law, we hear about you know, I know our man in the sheds keeps saying Sarah's Law. We've got DBS, we've got enhanced DBS. So can you try and clear up exactly what it is that would prove beyond all reasonable doubt that somebody is not what they're being accused of?
Yeah. So after going through this quite a lot in the recent months and actually learning a lot about the process and what it is and what it entails and what it involves, there's 3 areas that can be disclosed. There is your DBS, there is a Claire's Law, and there is a Server's Law. So the Claire's Law relates to domestic violence, and that doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. You know, a man can have a Claire's Law disclosure done on the female partner. It doesn't matter. It's about whether that person is at risk from domestic violence by that partner or person around them in a possible relationship. The Service Law is around convictions, allegations, warnings, reprimands, and investigations. around child molestation and sexual conduct and abuse of a child. Now, both of those are actually verbal. Neither of them are paperwork based. So what happens is you go on to your local police force, whether it's their website, whether it's online, you make the application, you provide the identification for yourself, for the other party that you believe is at risk. So when I did it, I provided the identification for my kids as well. Okay. And you provide the information about who it is you believe could be a risk to those people, such as the children. And the police go away and they make an assessment based on that data, based on the reality of, is that person really going to be able to be a risk? And who are the people responsible to be able to safeguard the individuals that are at risk? They then decide whether they'll disclose it to you or not. If they decide to disclose it to you, they do it verbally. All right. And the reason they do it verbally is because of the GDPR and data protection. They don't leave you with paperwork, physical paperwork. What they do is they come to you, they read it through, as you probably heard on the disclosure call that was released, and you get all the information that way. And then you're supposed to sign something and say that you'll keep it confidential. Now, obviously, the more people are pushed, the less likely that's going to remain confidential, because people are going to have a right to reply when things are thrown at them. And that's the point of where sort of I'm at now, is I have all the audit trail, the correspondence with the police, everything in terms of even the correspondence with said podcaster. You know, that shows he was told, he was warned, and he was informed of exactly what was said with the police in copy, you know. And it's getting to that point where I will just release all that and take whatever I've got coming to me. If he wants to prove that the allegations against him that's come out in the disclosure call that we've heard are actually really, truly non-further actions because he was purely innocent, the only way he's going to do it is through an enhanced DBS. Now, it's difficult to get an enhanced DBS unless you do it through a business. Now, I offered to do that because I owned my own business at the time and was willing to make the application for the enhanced DBS, because actually there was a remit for us to do it. And as a podcaster, one of the things I said to him was, look, is it really that important if the people are trolling you and it's not real and it's not true, that you give your guests reassurance that what's being said about you isn't true because here's the DBS? That gives them reassurance that anybody that wants to target them because they're coming onto that podcast has that safeguarding and knowledge that they're not actually dealing with somebody that's a risk. Now, for me, that is an opportunity where if you're seeing guests constantly being approached by said trolls, but they've got the paperwork and it's being disclosed to them, and they still come on the show, after a few months, you suddenly start to see as the public, hang on, there can't be much in this because none of the guests are disappearing. However, at the moment, a lot of guests are not turning up on the podcast because it's a stigma. It's a stigma and it's an issue. And why would you reputationally want to assign yourself to someone who's not willing to resolve the issues around their own reputation? So he's going to have to go and get the enhanced one way or another. And he could actually do it himself because the podcast is now earning money. It's monetized. It's therefore a business. Therefore, he has a reasonable opportunity to submit the enhanced application as a podcast, as a business, and as somebody that claims to be a mental health ambassador. So that is what he really, really does need to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're nodding your head there, Lee. Do you agree?
100% agree. It's funny how he switches things, like how he targets. That's what switched me, because obviously when I seen what I had seen on the said gentleman, now should I call him a gentleman? Not really. I shouldn't at all. He's pure beast. So what I seen, I thought, I couldn't look past page 3. I was like, not for me. Like you said, Steve, you've got to move on. Then I had the Danny podcast drop, and then I became the target, like with the threats. Why have him on? Why this? And then the next phone call was, if you have him on again. And it just goes from there. You have to make your own mind up at some point. And for some of his followers, I'm trying to be really civil here, but Howie, man, get your heads a wobble. A whole town cannot be wrong.
I mean, Lee, you know, for me, there's two patterns of behaviour that I have seen, and those two patterns have been relentless. The first pattern of behaviour seems to be anybody that speaks out and against them, they're targeted and abused. And actually, I would like to give a big shout out to Making Gains podcast, Fergal.
Yeah, Fergal, top lad.
He hit the nail on the head the other month when he said he had Gary Firby on. He asked Gary a question. Gary answered it. Because it made reference to that said person, he was then inundated with a lot of abuse and targeted by trolls. Okay? That then passed because Fergal didn't mention him again after that. He's only just recently touched on a subject again because Gary Firby asked him to be a fair play man. All right? And I'm talking about patterns of behaviour because the other one, as you heard in the recording, is a pattern of behaviour. It's 3 victims, all right, all with 4 of the same offences registered. That is not bad luck. 3 victims, not linked, all with the same pattern of behaviour of allegations. So, you know, people do not understand that actually there's a significant issue with these type of crimes that only a very, very small percentage are actually punished and prosecuted. It's very, very difficult when it comes to a sexual nature of a crime that the police are able to take it forward. There is more NFAs and crimes dropped of a sexual nature than any other crime in the UK. And that's statistically. And it's something that I was looking into because of some of the points and facts that were made. In fact, just to sort of reiterate that point, I took that information and contacted the same DS who gave me the disclosure.
And you let me read that email?
I did, yes. Yeah. I actually contacted the DS and asked the same question of the DS, and the DS came back and confirmed to me everything they told me was accurate and correct and recorded on the National Crime Database and other crime agencies within England and Wales.
Wow.
So, you know, it's not like it's just been made up overnight to get at somebody. There is fact and basis behind what's being said. And I'm not saying that for any way, shape or form, he is guilty because he's not been found guilty. No one has ever said that he is a convicted paedophile because that's not true. However, he is a significant risk to women and children. That is a fact. That is stated and documented by the police. It's a government organisation. It's a public body. They have stated that for fact, which is why I went out publicly this week and said, sue me. And I'll say it again. I'll say it publicly now. I'm on your podcast, Steve. Is if you're watching, sue me. Go to a no-win, no-fee solicitor and sue me. Okay? Because the defence for defamation is truth. And that is truth. So if you think I'm lying, sue me. Because I know there's only one winner there.
I mean, somebody's made the point in the comment. Proud to be a Geordie says, I can't be the only one who finds that the fact that calls are recorded is very weird. I mean, the fact that there's been so many phone conversations recorded really has me scratching my head. I mean, Lee, it's not natural behaviour, is it? I don't know about you, but when I'm on the phone to my mum, talking about what I'm going to be doing this week or what I've done last week or what I've had for me dinner or how the kids are, I don't sit and record it on my iPhone or whatever it is.
That's the one thing that I regret about the threats. Do you know what I mean? That's the only thing that I regret, not being able to, because I did have one of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's different if somebody rings up and somebody leaves a message on an answering machine, and you
100%, but
you maybe just want to keep it for posterity in case you want to find out who that is. But sitting recording phone calls, and I think there's a damning bit in there, and I think everybody knows what it is without us repeating it word for word. But more or less saying, well, if people see this, they'll think I'm that, and you just think, wow, that is fairly damning, that, like. And again, it's how do you twist your way out of that? I just don't know. It's an accumulation of evidence, which it's fairly damning. And they say you're innocent until proven guilty, but not making the job easy to prove himself guilty, is he? And as I said, recording phone calls, Lee, it's not something I do.
It's not something I've ever done. So why would you? You know what I mean? That it's like I say, his repetitive pattern of behaviour why haven't people picked up on that? I know we're going to the recording the phone calls, but again, it's in that pattern.
Yeah,
it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's literally like a jigsaw puzzle, Steve. The way I'm saying this is that I've bought a jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about it. I bought it. I've went and got the box. I've seen everything. I've put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I've went, not good, man. Not good.
I mean,
it's a repetitive pattern in his nature. It always, it will be.
This particular person we're speaking about, the last conviction, if I'm right, was 2009. We know that this person did have a sexual conviction, well publicised in newspapers. You're saying it's repetitive. Well, if it's proven eventually, then it certainly has been. And I think the last report of anything, I think, was around about 2018.
Yeah. But someone actually made a point in the comments there, Steve. I've seen it as it was going through. Was that we're only hearing about the NFAs that were reported, and I'm not saying that there has been anything gone on that hasn't been reported, but there is potential. There is potential of things that haven't been reported by people.
Colombo and the Caravan seems to be bringing up one every day.
Do you know what? I know you've got your differences, but in fairness, when it comes to the whole issue, let just touch on it a minute, Steve, right? The whole child porn issue with his computer. You and I both know, because we spoke to Terry Mullins. Yeah.
He is the best lie detector
He confirmed Paddy passed on his lie detector tests. He confirmed he passed on the lie detector test, that he was telling the truth on the 2 occasions that he did the lie detector test. And, so Paddy has got at least some authority to be able to say, this is wrong, take a lie detector test, because he's done one himself. I would take one just to prove exactly what the police had said to me was what they said. And I offered to do that in one of my first call-out videos. And the offer still stands. But, in addition to it, one of the other comments that popped up, and you put it on the screen, was from Frederick K, where they said there was a call recording. He recorded a conversation with me, and I asked him clear cut, have you ever been investigated, cautioned, or questioned for offences against women and minors? No, never, was his response. No, never. And it's fortunate the people that he sent those recordings to then sent them to me when he was going out calling me a liar, so I could be able to prove I wasn't lying. Because otherwise it does look like he said, she said, and tit for tat. And people now need to wake up and realise, actually, there are some elements of truth to all the things that are coming out. And unless he actually deals with them in the right way, instead of screaming and shouting, bursting a blood vessel on his camera, on his mum and dad's doorstep, it's going to go round in circles, and no one is ever going to let it drop. He will continue to be asked, regardless, for evidence.
Yeah, big shout out to Karma Corner. I've stuck your link below. Yeah, and True Media couldn't make it due to work. I had to put this on at 5 o'clock because everyone knows I do tend to do Newcastle United related stuff on this channel, not true crime. True crime once a week, and that's it. Honest Truth, good to see you on here as well. Yeah, look, I'm more than happy to come on your show. And look, if you could get Conroy on, I'd come on with him. I've arranged, I've asked him if he'll meet up. I'm happy to go to a location and go and sit down with him and have a chat with him if that was what he wanted to do. I'm not sure it is. I really don't, care whether he does or not. But if it means we can put it to bed, then let's do it. Let's have a sit down. Let's do it on someone's podcast. Let's do it in a bar where there's no cameras, whatever. I think a neutral ground. I know John's offered the opportunity for me to Conroy, and he was I don't know whether he was mulling it over or not, but yeah, this isn't about Conroy tonight. You're right, Honest Truth, but yeah, look, get him on. I'm more than happy to come on anybody's podcast, and a big shout out to Karma Corner as well, because I've got to be honest, if you haven't watched it, that is the funniest podcast on this particular subject, and we all like a bit of humor, and I know this particular subject matter is not humorous at all. But when you see the way that he edits people's videos, I'm sure he might do this one. Let's just see. But yeah, he's a funny guy. Look, the other thing I want to mention, because we know Ronan is doing a live tonight at 9 o'clock. I've spoken to Ronan. I actually pre-recorded a podcast with Ronan, Let's Talk podcast, about me, not about this particular situation. He interviewed me, and I think it goes out next week. And then when I realized he was going to be interviewing this guy, I asked him, is it going to be open? Is it going to be, are there going to be questions? He says it's going to be. So it should be interesting tonight to see whether that is the case. He did ask a point about, and I think I saw it in the chat there as well, about the difference between DBS checks in different countries. And I think it was Cookie, who I've seen in the chat on The Honest Truth, who said, I think about Scotland, is the different rules, John, for different countries. And I mean, Scotland's a different country, Ireland's a different country. And this is the thing that not the honest truth, Ronan had asked. I know what the DBS check's like in my country, in Belfast, but what's it like in England? Is it any different? It
is. So with Scotland, they didn't adopt the Clare's Law and Sarah's Law disclosure schemes. They have their own schemes. And the reason they slightly differ is because of the Limitations Act as well. So the Limitations Act here in England and Wales is 6 years. In Scotland, it's actually 5. So there's a difference as well in regards to the, if you like, spent conviction times, which is why that the process differs slightly. However, regardless of the difference on the statutes of limitations, as it was explained, the sexual offences never drop off on the enhanced. They're always there. So if you did make an application in England and Wales, and said podcaster also travels over to Scotland and resides in Scotland as well, you would need to make an application to both to be able to get the information from both countries.
Interesting. It's it's something that you look at and think, wow, this isn't as clear cut as you think it's going to be for getting the results. But, when you break it down, John, the way you do, it makes it easier for all of us to understand. It's not something any of us would have to go through. Lee, I mean, how do you see this progressing? And it can't really go on much longer, can it? I mean, this is like stripped back and laid bare now, isn't it? Everything is out in the open. There could be other things come out, we don't know, but in all intents and purposes, how do you see this panning out?
Will it ever end? Will we ever get the truth? Will we ever get to the point where he's rightfully held for what he's done? My channel wasn't, like I say, my channel wasn't started for this. Like, it was all boxing related. Like, the criminology was always like the hobby. If I could, funny, I should say that because that's how my podcast started. Criminology. I had a certain person on. I had yourself on. I had Brian Cockle on, and then that sprouted off from me getting other media jobs with boxing organisations up and down the country. How how I see this progressing. If I can bring awareness to it in my channel, I will. But at some point, I've got to take my mental health into consideration, because I'm a mental health sufferer myself. Not many people know that, and I want to focus, because I'm not used to the trolls. My podcast channel's only been going a year. Like that's it. I'm not used to it. It's kind of chipped itself away at me personally. But I just hope that victims, those who have been harmed, and those who's been hurt, are those who find some clarity if they do ever get the end of this.
Big up for you for admitting that as well. It's really important that men especially learn to talk about mental health. And Lee, you know, I'll respect you 100% for for speaking up about that. And you know, I'm always on the end of the phone, mate, if you need us, Lee. So you know, give us a shout, mate, if you're ever feeling like that. You're like me, you're into your boxing, and you know, this situation developed into a fight a couple of weeks ago. Well, I say a fight; it was very one-sided. Somebody who gave 5 stone away was away home and away back to work really after that, because you know he did so well. Look, it takes balls to get into a ring, whether it's 12 foot, 16 foot, whatever. But I find all of this calling people out strange as well. I find challenging people out, and you know, a lot of damage done. Nasty big scar left on this person's head, and you know, for me, I felt, you know, had the opponent been the same weight, I think it could have been all over quite quickly. But that's me as a boxing fan. That's me as somebody who enjoys watching a fight. Why would you even contemplate getting back in the ring with that person? Is this some kind of self-punishment, do you think? I read a lot into it. I look at it. Do you think it's like, you know, I just don't understand it. Now we're having talk about a, you know, fight till you drop. I mean, in 3,000 capacity crowds, and I don't understand where this is all coming from.
I just believe it's another distraction tactic, another thing just to blow over what's happening now. I believe that's exactly what it is. To fight wise, look what Danny done. Imagine Danny in a camp. Because a lot of people aren't giving. Yeah, now they're giving Danny his self-proclaimed justice, but they didn't give him a chance. Not one person gave Danny a chance going down there, bar his and who loved him, and the people around him.
And exposure TV, to be fair, he called it quite well, actually.
And the people around, they didn't give him a chance. And me and Danny were talking as friends, saying, because me and Danny have never ever exchanged any words about this man. It's only when this man has surfaced and come up and alleged that we've come up, Mr. Firby, Mr. Christie, Bad Blood podcast, they've never been involved with my podcast, ever. They've merely been guests who have remained good friends. I'm in the same region. Why wouldn't I want to withhold a reputable reputation with my guests who I may potentially have on in the future again? Why wouldn't I?
The fights are interesting, John. You know, is it a distraction technique in your honest opinion?
Honestly, yeah, it is, in my opinion. I mean, my own opinion is that he never had any intention of taking Danny out of his expose. Okay. And when he decided to take Danny out, he realised he might not have enough material. And he looked for something very, very minor in order to put Danny back in. And he's used that on purpose. Because there was no real reason behind putting Danny back in over a clown emoji. That was it. And the clown emoji wasn't even aimed at him. It was aimed at the person whose channel had made those references. You know, why call Danny out over that? A clown emoji. That's no disrespect to him. The disrespect with that clown emoji was aimed at the other channel. It wasn't aimed at him. He made it into something that it wasn't. Whether that's his own self-induced paranoia because of everything that he's done and got going on, I don't know. But he's made it to ensure that he can now use that to deflect and distract what people like myself has thrown at him.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the expose. It's coming out, John. Are you concerned?
No, I genuinely, as I said in my video the other day, good. I'm actually proud of taking the stance that I've eventually took and decided to speak out against him. Because if it means that that helps one person not be put at risk, then I felt like I've achieved something.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm going to show a little trailer now, and before we come on to the final subject tonight. Gary Firby, the Duke of Windy Nuke, big launch tomorrow night in Newcastle. I'm going to be comparing it. Looking forward to meeting Gary and seeing a few of his mates come up. His DVD's available for a tenner. Well worth it. I interviewed him during COVID and we've put that together. Big shout out to Media Arts for doing that. Lee, he's a character, Gary. I mean, I managed him on the unlicensed scene years ago. He's supposedly got a fight against this person again now, and he's been doing a few videos. He's not quite technically minded, Gary, but he does manage to get his message across on his phone, doesn't he, when he's in his car?
All he gets to the point. Gary gets to the point. If it takes him 10, 15 minutes, he'll get to the point. Look, Gary, referring to the fight, why are you wanting to fight with a man who's knocked you out in 10 seconds? You know what I mean? Why would you want to even go back to that trauma? Why? He's doing it for. Sorry to go back to the situation, but the man. This is why Gary's been involved. It's the star of the show. Them two are the stars of his show, and that's what he's making money off. Simple as that. That's all I can say on it. That's the honest truth.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Ben, says CBK Journal. I don't know who Ben is, but have a good birthday. Marty Jago says, I worked with Gary Firby's dad, Brian, years ago. Yeah, Brian was a top bloke. But yeah, get yourself on Amazon, buy Gary's DVD. John, Gary Firby has been dragged into this. Is Lee right? Is he being used in a pawn in this game to get a bit more publicity and earn a little bit more on the monetization side?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been, in my opinion, this whole area of mystery, if you like, between him and the Firby fight. I mean, when I first started working with him, didn't know nothing about him. I didn't know nothing about Gary, and I took him at his word that he threw the fight for 500 quid. It was only later on this year when I seen the footage. Actually, I think it was your channel, actually, Steve. You put it out around March, April time during lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That I looked and thought, didn't look thrown that to me. That looked more fear than thrown. And I'm not digging at him, but that was my opinion after I'd seen the footage. And people have always said, are you going to fight Gary again? Are you going to fight Gary again? That's been a reoccurring theme for years and years and years. And I think by shouting and screaming and throwing Gary's name out there, people are just looking at what's going on his channel for the likes of the drama. And again, it's all just another tactic of deflecting the true issues that need addressing.
Definitely is. Lads, been a pleasure having you on. I think we've done it in a respectful way. I think we've done it in the proper way. I think there's a lot of stuff getting thrown around, and we'll leave that to the other channels. And this channel doesn't go out to insult or to expose or to accuse people. And expose actually just reminds me. I had got one of that topic of conversation. We've lost it. We've lost another channel, haven't we? It was based on a guy called Edward Woodward, a famous detective series, The Equalizer. Where's he gone?
He's back up. He's got a new channel as of yesterday.
Well, I mean,
I caught him out trying to do dirty stuff to the man, and I jumped on his channel. That's why he's got a different channel for. I jumped on him straight away. I tried to catch him out trying to edit stuff, edit websites, a lot. I caught him out on it. Now, that's why I had to comment on it. Now, he uploaded a certain video again, and I called him out on it again. So, him, full of...
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I just think it's bizarre. I mean, look, this guy doesn't know this other guy from Adam, yet he's jumping on the bandwagon and sticking up for him. And there's another channel, I believe, as well out there, Crime Scene Northeast. I've seen him. I've heard your messages, your derogatory messages about me, but we crack on. Again, somebody defending what I would say now, having seen everything that I've seen, is the indefensible, John. I guess there has to be two sides to every argument, but you back the wrong horse, you're going to be in a bit of a position when this all comes home to roost on you.
Yeah. I mean, anyone backing that wrong horse really are in for a bit of a shock in reality. I mean, the only thing I can see is he'll either come out and provide the proof that he isn't,
And good on him if he does, by the way. Good on him if he does. And if he comes around and says, this is my, proof, and we see it, I think that's great. Happy days. I think that is fantastic if he does that. And I think we'll all be able to sit back. And I think there'll be a few people who owe him an apology. I think there'll be a lot of people who will be eating humble pie. But if that doesn't happen,
then my personal opinion is he needs to come off social media, because he poses himself as a risk to the public. I mean, look, anybody that comes out and proves themselves innocent, they could have done it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about, you've put my mother through this, you've put my family through this. No one hasn't put their family through it or their mother through it. He's put them through it because of his refusal to actually answer the questions that are in the public domain. He could have put it all to bed. And when I worked with him, I was willing to help him put it to bed. But somebody that refuses and lies again to cover up the facts and lies more to cover it up again is not somebody that's going to be able to prove their innocence. And if they did, why not just talk about it openly from the beginning instead of hiding behind it? Talk about it as a victim, as, for instance, Dale Brendan Hyde. Dale Brendan Hyde is an author that was accused and prosecuted for rape. And he was actually found not guilty and vindicated for that offence 2 years after being sent to prison. Dale doesn't hide it from it. Dale deals with that head on. If he had nothing to hide, I would respect him more for dealing with that head on like Dale did.
Interesting stuff, and shout out to Dale. I know that he'd probably be watching this at some point. And a big thank you to everybody in the chat for keeping it respectful. I know that I tend to ban anyone who goes on the offensive, but I think I've been fair. I've let everybody have their say. I know there's a few people who've come into the chat and want to support the person we've spoken about. And like I said, if he's watching tonight, you know what to do. Clear your name, I think, is the obvious thing to do. And I've spoken to him, we've had dealings with him. It's only a few months ago that he was making podcasts with Conroy about me, slandering my name and accusing me of things which I haven't done. And, there's no real loyalty when someone has a pop at you like that. But for me, I did what I had to do, and I've done my research now. And hopefully this podcast tonight lets everybody know who follows me and follows my channel where I'm standing. If you want to buy some books for Christmas, badboysbooks.net, it's there on the screen. If you want to watch Bad Blood podcast, the link's below. Subsequently, I've put the other podcasts, True Media and Karma Corner, in there as well. I'm going to get them on at a later date. And the Criminal Underworld is a group on Facebook, but you do have some good content on there from John. Been great to have you on, guys. Look forward to having you on. Billy Thompson, thank you. Nice, kind words. Only voice of reason and level head and all this. Thank you, Billy. Much appreciated. Lads, I've got to get off and do my Newcastle United stuff, and you know that means more to me than the world of true crime. Big shout out to Paddy. Try and get something sorted out. Let's get on the honest truth and let's have a proper sit down and a conversation like men. That would be good for me. Okay, take care, lads. See you soon.
See you, lads. Ta-da.